11:47 p.m. A police patrol car slowed down near the strip mall. The officer noticed smoke rising from behind the small sign that read, "I can't believe it's yogurt." At first, it seemed like it might just be a minor kitchen fire, but as he got closer, the smoke thickened and the air filled with the smell of burning plastic and something else. Within minutes, fire trucks arrived. The firefighters forced open the door, but what they walked into was more than just a small blaze. Inside was a stillness, the kind you only feel when all signs of life have already been silenced. Then, one firefighter grabbed his partner's arm, his face pale. "Is that a foot?" he asked. What they discovered inside would stop Austin in its tracks. That night took 4 young lives, 4 girls full of dreams, laughter, and everyday joy. Amy Ayers, just 13, but a true cowgirl at heart. Horses and dogs were her best friends. She'd been winning horse shows since she was little, dreaming of one day owning her own ranch and caring for animals as a veterinarian. Sarah Harbison, Amy's best friend, 15 years old. Energetic, athletic, and the life of her school's volleyball, basketball, and cheerleading teams. Always standing proudly beside her older sister, Jennifer Harbison, 17, a natural leader and president of her school's Future Farmers of America chapter. She'd taken a part-time job at the yogurt shop to save up for her truck. Eliza Thomas, 17, Jennifer's co-worker and friend. An animal lover with a passion for modeling and a talent for fixing cars. She worked late-night shifts to chase her dreams. 4 different lives, bound together by friendship and big plans for the future. December 6th, 1991. Austin was cool and calm. Around 8 p.m., Jennifer clocked in for her shift at the yogurt shop with Eliza. It was supposed to be simple. Close by 11, clean up, go home. Sarah and Amy spent the evening at the North Cross Mall. The plan? When the shift ended, Jennifer would pick them up, and the 4 would head to a sleepover. By 9 p.m., Sarah and Amy had joined them at the shop, carrying a pizza box the 4 shared behind the counter. A little later, Eliza's mom dropped by. Everything looked normal. A few customers were still enjoying dessert at their tables, but after 10:30 p.m., the atmosphere shifted. Some customers later told police they'd noticed 2 men acting strangely. Both wore heavy jackets with collars pulled so high they hid half their faces. One was tall, wearing a green army-style jacket. The other was shorter, with unkempt blonde hair. They sat at the table closest to the counter, silent, just watching. At 10:47 p.m., the last customer left, and those 2 men were still there. Moments later, the closed sign went up. The door was locked. Chairs were flipped onto tables. Inside the shop, only the 4 girls, and those 2 shadows remained. Back to 11:47 p.m. Officer Troy Gay radioed in the fire. Firefighters put out the flames, but what emerged from the smoke froze everyone in place. In the back area lay 3 bodies, stacked on top of each other, hands bound behind their backs, gunshot wounds to the head. Their clothes and faces were blackened from fire. A few feet away lay 13-year-old Amy Ayers, a cloth tied around her neck, drag marks on the floor, as if she'd tried to crawl away. The back door stood open. Signs of burning weren't just on the bodies. They were on the walls, the floor, and nearby paper cups and bottles of chocolate syrup, almost as if someone had deliberately tried to fuel the flames. Austin PD cordoned off the area. Detective John Jones, the first on scene, took one look and knew this wasn't the work of amateurs. The unlocked back door, the cash register left open with just $540 missing. It didn't add up to a simple robbery. Forensics collected 22 caliber and 380 caliber shell casings, a scrap of denim, Amy's heart-shaped belt buckle without the belt, and a ring belonging to Sarah's boyfriend. But after the fire, firefighters, paramedics, and investigators had all moved in and out, contaminating almost everything. When police began interviewing witnesses, a strange pattern emerged. Multiple customers recalled seeing those 2 men inside after 10 p.m. One witness, a former police officer named Daryl Croft, remembered the tall man refusing to take his turn in line, instead telling people to go ahead and then disappearing into the back after asking Eliza to use the restroom, never to be seen returning. At 10:47, they were still there. Then the shop closed, and the rest is guesswork. Police didn't have their names, addresses, nothing. But just days later, the investigation swerved. On December 14th, a 15-year-old named Maurice Pierce was caught at North Cross Mall with a .22 caliber pistol. He named 3 friends, Forrest Wellborn, Michael Scott, and Robert Springsteen. The gun turned out not to match the crime scene, but the 4 stayed on the police radar for years. In 1999, new investigators called them back in. After 18 hours of interrogation, Michael Scott gave what police called a detailed confession. Robert Springsteen confessed soon after. On those statements alone, police arrested all 4. The tactics: endless hours in a closed room, repeated lines like, "Your friends already named you," and at one point, a detective role-playing behind Scott with what felt like a gun pressed to his head. All of it built around a desperate narrative. And the biggest problem, not a single trace of physical evidence from the crime scene matched any of them. In 2001, Springsteen went to trial. The prosecution told the jury a story they claimed fit perfectly. 4 boys robbing the shop, binding the girls, assaulting them, shooting them, and setting the fire. The only evidence? Their own words. He was sentenced to death. In 2002, Scott's trial ended with a 99-year sentence. Charges against Pierce and Wellborn were dropped, but in 2006, Springsteen's conviction was overturned. The prosecution had used Scott's confession against him when Scott hadn't testified, violating the confrontation clause. In 2009, Scott's conviction fell for the same reason. Then came the bombshell. DNA from the crime scene proved the male profile belonged to none of the accused. It was a YSTR profile, tracing male lineage but not giving a name. Over 100 people were tested, from crime scene investigators to medical examiners. No match. In 2017, a hit appeared in a public DNA database, but the sample belonged to the FBI, submitted anonymously. When Austin PD asked for the identity, the FBI refused, citing privacy laws. By 2020, the FBI agreed to retest. No match this time. Officials say that as technology advances, the truth might finally surface. But for now, the questions remain. Is the killer still out there? Were those 2 jacketed men the last people to see the girls alive? Or was someone else watching from the shadows that night? 31 years later, the wound in Austin hasn't healed. The yogurt shop is now a nail salon, but those who pass by swear they still feel a cold wind there. Some stories live on not just because of how they end, but because they never truly end. 4 girls, Amy, Sarah, Jennifer, Eliza, whose dreams, laughter, and small everyday joys turned to ashes in one night. And their families still live with just one question. Why? A few strands of DNA locked away in an FBI database, and the tangled truth in the memories of those 4 lives. Maybe one day, through science, a mistake, or a witness finally coming forward, this riddle will break. Until then, the story carries a quiet fear, an unease, and a suspense that will never leave anyone who hears it. Because until the truth comes out, we'll all keep wondering. And if this killer is ever caught, what will his face look like?